Thanks for joining us today on Talk the Talk with Tribe Title. Today's guest is Chad Krumrei of Vivid Real Estate Group. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. Vivid Living.
Vivid Living Real Estate Group.
Sorry. Fix it. No, it's okay. You're good.
So your group now, it's comprised of you, your wife Alina.
Yep.
And how many others do you have on your team?
3 other agents and some administrative staff.
Okay.
So
awesome.
We might add one more. We'll see. We're talking to some people. So.
And you guys have grown rather quickly, right?
Yeah. I mean, I started in real estate 2.5 years ago Alina's been doing it for 6.
Okay.
And about 2 years ago, right after the COVID lockdowns, we decided we wanted to start to grow it. And kind of since then we've been growing. My niece has been working with Alina since before I was there too. So Taylor.
Oh yeah.
And so they had a little team and now we have the group and it's going great. We have fantastic agents, all of them. I'm super proud of all of them.
Yeah.
So wonderful people.
That's awesome. And now, have you guys grown by design, or is it kind of organic the way you guys find people?
So, I mean, at first organic, then by design.
Yeah.
You know, Alina was in there first, and then Taylor popped on and joined her, and then I joined her because it was just kind of, we wanted our freedom, we wanted a certain lifestyle that we could have.
Yeah.
And joining her, we worked more the same hours. We had a lot more flexibility. So that was what drove my switch from IT.
Yeah.
And then since then, we kind of were like, we want to add more people. We want to help more people. We want to do what we can to really make an impact in Livingston and Washtenaw County.
Yeah.
So it's been intentional since then, since those first 3. And
okay.
Now every step's pretty calculated and we're careful. But the first 3 were pretty organic and now it's calculated.
Yeah. Nice. And I like that you say, help more people. It's not necessarily a money thing. It's
no. Oh, for sure. Like, I'll tell you right now, like, that's what I love, like being able to sit down with someone and identify needs and provide solutions. And that's true both in real estate and then like the personal safety stuff that we're going to talk about later. Right. So, I mean, providing solutions for something as basic as housing and something as important as personal safety, that drives me, man.
Yeah, no, that's a win-win.
Yeah.
So now you said IT. What did you do in IT prior?
Yeah, so I was an IT director for a software company down in Ann Arbor they do awesome work. They write DNA analysis software.
Oh, wow.
And so they have 2 main products. They have Sequencer, which is used for like base by base sequencing of DNA. So if you're trying to find a gene in a DNA sequence, it's only recently that you're getting these longer and longer strands of DNA when you sequence. It used to be really short pieces.
Yeah.
And all those little short pieces you'd have to fit together with overlaps and build like a linear puzzle.
Yeah.
And then you could go through that and look for the different genes that encode for proteins and then enzymes and figure out like what's happening there using this long string of characters. But you got to figure out what order they go in first.
Right.
And it does a lot of stuff more than that. I mean, but that was kind of the big solution it had. So that's been around quite a while. That's an older product and still, last time I checked, I haven't been with the company for a few years now, but last time I checked, they were still one of the top pieces of software in the industry for that purpose.
Yeah. And
then the other product they make was just amazing. And it's called Emphasis, which was the mass fatality identification system.
Okay.
So that's used, I mean, it sounds like what it's for, right? And it was originally developed to help identify the human remains from the World Trade Center.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, a very sombering experience to work on those projects like that. And obviously the applications for that sort of software are always, you have to take a step back and be like, but you're providing a solution, right?
Absolutely.
And you're helping to bring closure. I mean, that was a big deal.
Right.
And that is a big deal to a lot of folks. So, I loved working on that project kind of for the same reasons we've talked about is you have the opportunity to provide concrete solutions for folks and bring closure and help them.
Yeah.
So it was quite the experience. That was like what I went into right out of high school, was working for that company. And then I was there for 17 years. So long time.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in both fields, it sounds like the bottom line is the biggest thing you take away from it is you enjoy helping people in any sense.
Yeah.
That's great. And now, your upbringing, are you from here originally?
So I grew up in Saline.
Okay.
Down near Ann Arbor. And was there for, long time. And then I got married to Alina.
Yeah.
And she was getting a teaching job out in Weberville. So she was a teacher for 9 years. And we kind of found Howell as an in-between for us. And it's we've been here since.
Yeah, it's a great
we
place.
We love Livingston County. We love Howell. We love Brighton. I mean, so many great communities. And not that Washtenaw County doesn't have that, but we just love it here.
Yeah, no, it's great. And now you guys have a new addition to the family as well, correct?
We do. So after 9 years of praying and trying and just wanting a baby so bad, Clara May was born 2 months ago today.
Congratulations.
Thank you. She's just amazing. Like, I mean, I'm sure everybody who has a kid knows like that's just the most transformative thing that you cannot really prepare for.
Yeah.
It's out of the blue, kicks your rear end, and now life's totally different.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. It's like one of those things where prior to, you kind of know and have an idea, but then after, it's like sometimes it's hard to even talk about them without getting emotional.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And it's wild.
It's not what you expected. Like,
no.
I mean, you thought you knew, but you didn't know.
Right. It's like a whole, that's why I have friends that don't have kids and don't want kids. And I'm like, man, you're missing out on such an incredible thing that you just will never know until you do it.
And I mean, I was one of those people growing up thought I didn't want kids.
Same.
And it's just like, I'm so glad that's not the way I went in life.
Yeah.
You know? So no, she's amazing.
Yeah. Well, you marry a good woman and then usually the rest follows. I was the same. I saw myself never being married, never having children, both of which have been the best things in my life.
Yeah.
By far.
Definitely.
That's
I would
great.
Agree with that wholeheartedly.
So now do you guys feel like it's kind of worked out to your advantage, the way everything's worked in the transition from your job to this job, and Alina and you having a team together? Has that been beneficial in you guys kind of your life that you've designed as far as being able to spend time with Clara?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. So like today is really the first time we've had to leave her for any amount of time on her own. So she's with my mother-in-law right now, which God bless her. I'm so thankful for her to step in and take care of her. But no, I mean, one of us is usually able to be with her. Alina usually stays home and does the paperwork. And I go out and do the showings and inspections and whatever else needs to be done in the field. And it's great. So
that kind of brings me to my next thing. This month is actually Realtor Safety Month.
It is.
And like you said, it's nice for you guys because you have a team, and it's you and your wife, and she's able to obviously do the paperwork and things like that. I know usually she does a lot more than that, but obviously for the baby at home, it's nice for her to be there. But it's also nice for her to have, from a safety standpoint, you to be able to go out and do showings if it's like a new client or somebody you guys have never met.
Yeah. Yeah. And, just to dispel a myth real quick, while of course women are at higher risk of, violence being committed against them, being the victims of violent crime, men are too. And you need to, just because you're a man doesn't mean you're safe.
Right.
You still need to be aware and paying attention to what you're doing when you're working with people you don't really know at first.
Right.
You're going into empty homes and empty houses and empty buildings with strangers. Like, I'm going to tell my kid not to do that.
Right.
But I'm doing that for work.
Yeah.
So,
it is different. And that's, like you said, that's a myth, which I was reading the statistics yesterday and it said, I mean, it was a pretty high percentage of men as well that have been in a situation where they felt unsafe or uncomfortable.
Yep. So, I mean, I would say don't be complacent and just be aware. Like the biggest thing really is situational awareness, paying attention to your surroundings, what's going on around you. And not just when you're showing homes, but in life in general.
Yes.
So, let's say you pull up to a house, you're meeting clients for the first time. The first thing you're doing is deciding where you're going to put your car, where you're going to park.
Yeah.
And you might expect a car in the driveway. If you can get there early before the clients, that's great. But if there's other people like loitering around, what are they doing? And how many people are in that car when you pull up? And how many people go into the house with you?
Right.
So you pull up, you park someplace you can get out easily. Don't get blocked in. Very basic, very simple thing to do.
Right.
The first thing I do when I show a client a new home after I've decided where to park and figured out how I can get out if I need to get out is I'm going to walk around the exterior of the house first with them.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, I want to check out the roof. Let's look at the roof. Let's look at the condition of the siding and all that stuff. And I'm looking at those things, but I'm also checking for a few other things. I'm looking for forced entry on the home, broken windows, tool marks around windows that indicate, pry marks. I'm looking for any signs that somebody else might be in the home that I'm not anticipating.
Right. So not even necessarily the client you've never met,
Correct.
but walking in on a situation that's something that had transpired prior to you arriving.
Yep. And hazards too, like what's in the yard. I mean, is there evidence of, drug use in the building? Is there drug paraphernalia laying on the ground? Like what's going on? What can I learn about the home before I even step foot in it? I'm observing the clients too, though. Like nervousness, self-grooming behaviors like touching the face or touching hair, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That kind of nervous energy can be what's called a pre-incident indicator.
Yeah.
Hands moving around like the waist area or touching their side often, like they're checking to see if something's there, like a weapon.
Right.
I'm looking for those things, clenched fists, off mannerisms, like just not there. And it doesn't mean that they're a threat, but it means that I need to pay extra attention to this person.
Right.
Like their behavior is just not typical, not inside my baseline, not inside my normal range of what I expect from a client.
Yeah.
So I'm learning about them. And you know, if I'm nervous, like if it's not a good fit, I'm going to cancel the showing. I might look at my phone and say, I'm sorry, I've got an emergency.
Right.
You know, I gotta bug out. Let's set up a different time to do this. And I've never had to do this before, but you know,
no, it's better to be uncomfortable and awkward in a situation than put yourself further into danger.
And we have, so societally, like, especially in our industry, like we're people generally.
Right.
And we have a disposition that we want to be nice.
Right.
And a lot of times it can be to our detriment. Like we're ignoring signals that we should be paying attention to. It's like, okay, I don't want to offend this person. Not that we should go out of our way to offend people, but I don't want to seem like I'm uncomfortable around them. But listen to that voice. Like there's a great book I really love and I recommend to everybody I know who will listen to me. It's The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker.
Yeah.
And the man is very intelligent. He studied criminal behavior for years and years and years. And he goes through different types of assaults and attacks and violent crime and the victims. And he interviews the victims about their experience. And don't get me wrong, it's a tough book to read, but I think it's one of the most important, most educational books.
Right.
Someone in our industry or any industry where we're working with people. I mean, honestly, anybody should read this book.
Yeah. Just for life.
Yeah. I mean, and over again, it's, you know, we will be nice to our detriment and not listen to that spidey sense if you're a comic book guy.
Yeah.
Or, you know, that gut feeling, that gift of fear that we have in our bodies, in our heart. Yeah. We'll push it aside.
Yeah.
And it's not that we always have that. Of course it's not that every attack is, you know, that comes before it, but if it's there, listen to it. Yeah. Yeah, don't dismiss that. That's important. If something is off, it might be off.
Right. And you hear about that a lot where it's the victim was like in this situation where they knew something was wrong. They were uncomfortable, but for some reason they're so uncomfortable making somebody else uncomfortable, they'll allow themselves to get further into the situation.
Because we want to be nice.
Right. Which is
crazy. Good isn't nice. Like it's not the same thing. You can be a good person and still in certain situations it's okay to be not nice.
Right.
Especially one of your safety's on the line.
Right. Especially now when there's more at risk. I mean, now you're talking about you have a daughter, you have a wife, you have all these things that, you know, at the off chance you may offend somebody, you're needed elsewhere.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For a long time. So it's like not important to you know, sacrifice yourself to make this one person feel comfortable.
Yeah. So, and then we'll run through all the things we do at a showing, and really we should have talked about what we do before the showing, and we'll come back to that.
I was going to ask you about that. So do you usually try to meet them somewhere else, at least get an ID, things like that?
That's ideal. It doesn't always work out that way. If you can get an ID, I mean, Facebook stalk them. Most people have a Facebook account.
Right.
You can look them up and see, you know, are they real?
Right.
Do they have years of personal life on the internet?
Right. Or just one picture and then nothing else.
That's kind of like what's going on with that.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Honestly, there's great resources out there. So the Michigan State Police, they have the Michigan iChat program where for $10 you can run somebody and look up their criminal history. That's pretty cheap insurance in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt.
Also, there is the national, I'm trying to remember the NSOPW. Let me pull it real quick.
Yeah.
So I can give the link, but there's the National Sex Offenders Public website. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So nsopw.gov.
Yeah.
And you can look up people in your area who are registered sex offenders.
Right.
You know, do that background checking before you meet them in person.
Yes.
If you can meet them at the office or at a Panera or a coffee shop somewhere and have that initial interview, that's great. With COVID, that got really challenging. Some people are still pretty nervous about going into public spaces. So a Zoom call, I mean, at least try to read these people a little bit and see, you know, how you mesh. I mean, it might not even be a safety thing. Like you might not mesh well.
Yeah.
So, you should definitely be doing your research before. you meet them.
Right. I said I think it was probably a couple months back, I read something on one of the Facebook groups, and it was a woman who had a showing, I want to say maybe off of like a Zillow lead or something.
Yeah.
And went to that property that was located kind of in the middle of nowhere.
I saw that too.
Yeah. And that was, sometimes you're like, okay, were they over the top? Was this a little dramatic? And then I'm looking at it and I'm looking at the picture and these things. And I'm like, man, that's a huge red flag.
Yeah. And if you have an experience like that, I mean, call the police and let them know, like, get out of there, call 911 if you need to get out of there, or use whatever systems. And we can talk about building some systems too to help you stay safe.
Yeah.
But get out of there. And even if you get out safe, nothing happened and you're like, oh, I was probably being a little paranoid.
Right.
Still, if something made you feel that way, it doesn't hurt to call the police. You don't need to call 911. You can look up the non-emergency number and just say, hey, I'm a realtor. This is my name. This was the address I was at. And I had this experience and it was a little weird. I just want to make you guys aware in case there's any kind of history, or if there is a history with this person already, you guys know about it.
See something, say something.
Yeah.
Because you'd feel terrible to then read in the news a week later that someone was killed or offended and you had an interaction with this person and didn't feel like it was big enough to bring it up. Yeah.
And I mean, let your local real estate board know too, because they're like, our MLS, we log in and we have the scams page and it pops up and you can see all the things that are happening to try and make all other agents aware. And I mean, look at that too, like pay attention to that. I know I'm in a hurry trying to pull up a listing and I'll click past it, but definitely invest some time in seeing what's happening in your area with realtors and what they're seeing as, dangerous or scary or scammy things. Yeah.
Do you guys on your team now, do you have a system in place for example, if Alina goes out, there's probably things that you make sure are covered prior to her going out on a showing alone?
Yeah. So we use apps to track our location. So we always know where we are. Every appointment is in a shared calendar, so we can always see, where that appointment is. Right. If it's somebody we haven't met before, we typically in the past would always both try to go.
Yeah.
So there's two of us there. Things have changed a little bit. Usually Alina will, like if she has to do an appointment on her own, I'll say, try to get their license plate number, try to, description of the vehicle, just so I know what it looks like. Right. So I have this one cool little device that I want to show you. It's called a Ripple.
Okay.
And it's in here somewhere. But it's a small, for folks who can't see it, it's about a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch. If you're just listening.
That's really tiny.
This is a Bluetooth device with a button in it. And I have to keep it in the manufacturer's packaging because I lose them otherwise. I keep buying these to show as an example, and they go away. So it's about a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch, and this can go on a necklace, on a keychain. You can attach it to your watch.
Yeah, it looks like a really small suitcase lock.
Yeah, and you can push on this, and it'll either call 911 if you subscribe to their program, which is, I think it's like $60 a year or something. It's not that much. Or it will call like a preset contact and give your location.
Okay. So you can kind of decide what you want it to respond to.
Depending on how many clicks. So, hey, I'm uncomfortable. I'm going to click it once and it's going to go to, like if it's Alina, it's going to go to me.
Okay.
And I'm going to know where she's at. It's going to send me her location. If it's an emergency and she clicks it 3 times, it's going to call 911.
Okay.
And as long as she's within Bluetooth range of her phone, then it's going to go.
Yeah.
It's going to make that call.
Okay.
So
that's really cool.
And they're cheap. Like I think the device is $20. So $100 a year investment probably is what you're looking at. Yeah. And you have another tool that's pretty, inconspicuous.
Yeah.
I could push this if it's on my watch band or in a pocket and on a keychain. You wouldn't know we could be sitting here and I could be calling 911.
Yeah. Yeah. So, even if somebody took your phone or got you in that position, you could still have that in your possession.
As long as you're within range of your phone.
Right.
So it doesn't have its own cellular service. So, but Bluetooth is, 20 feet pretty easy.
Yeah.
So even if you're not in possession of your phone, it's going to make that call.
Right. That's really cool.
But that, phones, keep them with you.
Yes.
Keep them charged. Like multiple chargers in your car, you don't lose them. It's always kept up above at least 50%. So if you need to call, you can call. Or if I need to check where Alina is or she needs to check where I am, we can do that. Your phone's like one of your most important survival tools.
Right.
So keep that ready.
That's a really cool device. And then, so all this stuff you're talking about too, you're not just kind of speaking off the cuff. You actually teach safety. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do. So I am certified with the NRA to teach a few different classes, and then also with the United States Concealed Carry Association to teach a few classes as well. And they just released a Realtor Safety class. Okay. So that's pretty cool. It just came out in the last couple of months, and I'm pretty excited to start rolling that out here pretty
That is
soon.
cool. So what's the differences between something like that as opposed to just a concealed carry class?
You know, a lot of the really important systems, like situational awareness,
Yeah.
are in both. The Realtor Safety class kind of leaves out the operation of a firearm, the stuff specific to concealed carry, like using a firearm in personal defense.
Right.
It doesn't go as in depth with like justified use of lethal force. It touches on it, but it's not like the in-depth hours-long explanation of when you're justified in the use of lethal force and defending yourself. So it's like reading the material. It looks like it's about a 4-hour class, maybe more, maybe less. I need to go through it and just do some test runs of it. But I think it's great content, and I think for folks who maybe are a little intimidated by taking a class like a concealed carry class, it is a fantastic solution.
Yes.
And written by people who know, like experts in personal safety.
Okay. And now is that, so that is not connected to the concealed carry class. So that's something completely separate.
Correct. It has overlapping content, but it's an independent curriculum.
And that would be a good idea for somebody who's in real estate to take that, at least to get some systems in place, understand the things they need to do. And then if they decided at that point they wanted to continue further, then they could go and take a concealed carry class.
Or other classes, or read The Gift of Fear. Like I'm circling back to that because I think it's just one of the best things you can do is pick up that book and invest the time to understand, criminal behavior. Yeah. It's such a taboo part of our society. We don't want to think about it. We don't want to talk about it, but it's kind of important when we're trying to prevent it happening to us.
Yeah. It's one of those things, like whether you talk about it or not, it's still there.
It's there. Yeah.
Yeah. I always, when my wife and I lived in Chicago, she would do some things and go out late at night and do all these things. And she always kind of thought she was street smart or aware. And I was like, it's not, you weren't street smart. You were lucky. There's a difference. It's a lottery. You just weren't the person picked for that lottery, but that doesn't mean that you had the situational awareness to understand the danger you actually put yourself in.
Right. Right. I mean, it can be scary. Like you don't go to ATM at night. I mean, but I didn't make it there today. I mean, I have to go before tomorrow and I have to get up early if I'm going to go tomorrow. Well, that's a basic system. Like I'm not going to go dangerous, high risk places at nighttime, man or woman. Yeah. So yeah.
Now I have to ask, have you ever personally been in a situation like that in real estate where you felt uncomfortable?
Yeah. So I actually came across a house that once it had been broken into. Okay. Back, like one window had been pushed in and the slider in back was just open, and it ended up being just neighborhood kids being messing with a vacant house. Other than that, I haven't really. Alina has showed some homes before where the individual she showed it to wasn't a concern, but the state of the home. Like she showed one home that had bullet holes in it, and she showed out in Lansing, I think it was, and another home where risks aren't just people and bullets, but I mean, you go into a basement and there's standing water. What's that standing? Like, is there a current through that? Yeah. If you step into that water, what's going to happen to you? Or it could be sewage. It probably is sewage, or has sewage in it. Yeah, or electricity. And if you step into that, what's going to happen to you? Yeah. So, luckily, we haven't had any like really severe interactions that are horribly frightening, but you don't know when you might.
Right. And you take the measures ahead of time to make sure that you're, limiting the chance that you do.
Right. Try to. Yeah.
No, it's smart. I mean, it's like insurance. You don't buy insurance after you need it. You have it ahead of time, hoping you never need it.
You don't have a fire extinguisher in your home right before the fire. You don't have your smoke detectors, working right before the fire. They're always there. Yeah. And so it's consistent behaviors. Like that's what you need to do is consistent behaviors to stay safe.
Right. No, I love it. Now, is that something that you preach to your entire team also?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, these are, and I share it when I have the opportunity, there's been Facebook posts and all that sort of thing with our real estate team, our entire office. And when I do like the CPL class, if my audience is primarily realtors or has even one realtor in there, I will talk about a lot of these measures. Like I've dedicated slides I've written that just expand on some of this stuff. Right. And, I mean, there's homes that have booby traps in them. No joke. I mean, you go to some of these places that have been occupied by people who aren't in the best place in their lives and are, need shelter and feel unsafe. And they literally in some cities have left behind booby traps. So are you looking for that when you go into a home? Right. Is it likely to be in your $500,000, home in a sub? No, probably not. Right. I mean, but you should be aware there could be other hazards in that home that you need to be paying
Yeah,
attention to.
sure.
I mean, I've gone in homes that are mid-renovation, a flip that somebody walked away from, and it's like, there's electrical hanging from the ceiling that I could have literally walked into if I hadn't
brushed
been
it
watching.
away and gotten electrocuted.
Yeah.
Stepped on a nail sticking out of a board.
Yeah, that's no fun.
No, I've done that. It's not a good feeling.
So, yeah, I mean, you just have to be aware.
Yeah. Now, is that something that you got into after real estate, or is that something you were always passionate about and did prior to?
So there's a little bit of an origin story here. A little bit before Alina and I got married, she called me one morning. She was a teacher at the time.
Yeah.
And said, I'm kind of freaking out. There was a camera outside my window this morning as I was getting ready for work.
Outside of her home?
Window on her home.
Yeah.
And she was in a second story condo. Like, this is not like the most convenient opportunity for someone to be trying to spy on her like that. So that's like upsetting, to put it lightly.
Right.
And I'm like, well, did you call 911? She's like, yeah, I called 911. I'm like, okay, we'll try to get over there as quick as we can and just stay safe. Make sure your doors are locked, stay away from the windows, and just pay attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
And so I didn't live anywhere near her at that time. I was still down in the Saline area, and we were trying to get up here. But so 45 minutes later, and this, to take a step back, this isn't a criticism of law enforcement. I don't know what else they were doing at the time. They could have been dealing with a multi-car wreck with a bunch of emergencies and traumas. And like this is not any criticism whatsoever of Livingston County law enforcement. They're fantastic. But 45 minutes later, law enforcement hadn't responded yet. Yeah. So she called again, and another 45 minutes passed before somebody got there. Now, luckily, this type of, now we know, we've looked into it. Yeah. This type of behavior rarely elevates to the level of violence where somebody's trying to get into the home. Right. But you don't know that when it's happening to you.
Yeah, it's scary.
And so that was kind of a catalyst for us to say, okay, well, this is a personal experience where, hey, if something happens, who's responsible for us? Well, we are. Right. Like, we need to be able to take care of ourselves. Right. And, law enforcement's overall purpose is to protect society as a whole, not any one individual. And there's Supreme Court cases that have ruled that. So when it comes down to who's going to protect you, your wife, your children, it's you. Yeah. And when it's in the moment, I mean, during Hurricane Katrina, let's just use that as an example. Right. Or any other major emergency, the first responders, the law enforcement, the EMS, the firefighters, like, they're victims of that emergency too. Right. So the response time in a situation like that is going to be astronomical. It's going to be days, weeks before they get to your home. So even in the best of situations, you could be looking at minutes of response time to an hour and a half of response time to days of response time. So it's on you, whatever you need to do. Right. Be it defending yourself or rendering first aid. Like, huge advocate for first aid. I think one of the most important things you could have in your car is a tourniquet. Yeah. It is the most used life-saving device in the past 20 years. Yeah. And you come across an accident and you might need to render aid. And so you need the training to use a tourniquet too. This is called a CAT-T tourniquet. This is what most law enforcement and military carry. And if you're going to get one, get it right from the manufacturer, North American Rescue. There's sadly a bunch of fakes on Amazon. And you don't want to end up with a fake tourniquet when you need it. Right. That's going to break. But a tourniquet, basically, if you don't know, it arrests the flow of blood to an extremity. Right. So if you have a laceration on the leg that's deep and you're bleeding quickly, you can arrest that bleeding. And I know someone, who was in a motor vehicle accident and lost a leg. Yeah. And they were able to render aid to themselves, apply an improvised tourniquet. So they didn't have a tourniquet like this. They used a jacket. Right. And saved their own lives. Yeah. But without doing that, he probably wouldn't be here today. Yeah. So, I think a tourniquet's the most important thing you could have in your glove box in your car. Right.
Now I see on that little band there, it has the time. Yeah. And now is that to write down the time of application?
Yeah. Ideally, if you can do that in the emergency, you have the ability to write on this, you should, just so EMS and then the emergency room and the trauma folks know how long it's been applied and how long that limb has not had normal
so they can figure out whether or not to try to restore it or how much blood's been lost or
it just helps them dictate treatment. Right. So, I mean, I think a tourniquet's a great tool, and there's multiple varieties, but I think this is one of the most foolproof out there. Once you know how to use it, it's fairly simple and effective.
So you Velcro it on, slip the bar through, turn.
Yeah, the bar allows you to apply additional pressure. So, and that's one of the things people are like, oh, I'll just use a belt. And, you know, it's super challenging to do that. Your buckle gets in the way and all sorts of things. So improvised tourniquets, of course, if that's what you have, then that's what you have. Yeah. But in my opinion, and I'm not an expert, I'm not EMS, but just on things I've read, and I thankfully have never had to use a tourniquet, but the products are above and beyond. I mean, there's a reason why our military and our law enforcement carry this model, and it's because it's effective.
Yeah, and you said it's from North American Rescue?
Yep, North American Rescue.
Okay, very cool. And they have other things on there as well, I'm guessing?
All sorts of first aid kits and for different applications. I mean, but really, if you don't know how to use it, you don't need it with you, in my opinion. You know, don't carry the kit to intubate someone if you don't know how to intubate someone, because you're not going to help anybody that way.
They're live.
But a tourniquet is something that can be learned. You can learn to use pretty simply.
Right.
And literally is probably one of the most likely things you could have with you to save someone's life or even your own.
Right.
So, and I recommend, you know, if you're going to get one, get two or get three, however many cars you have, get one more so you can take one out and practice with it and know how it works.
And make sure you always have one in each vehicle.
Yep. Definitely.
Very cool. What else do you carry with you typically? Do you have a first aid kit of some sort? And
I don't typically carry like a full-on first aid kit. I would say one of my other things, obviously, so we've talked about your phone.
Right.
Very important tool. Flashlight.
Yeah.
Like there's a few different models out there. Not only are they great for seeing in dark places, and, you know, it impresses clients like crazy. You know, I go to a showing and it's like they're shining their phone flashlight around, trying to look at things up in like the basement. And I'm like, well, hang on a second. And boom, you know, you put 150 lumens on something and it's pretty impressive. And it allows you to build some rapport with a client. But a little light like this is a 2 AAA light. It's about the size of a pen, maybe a little shorter and a little wider. It's not only a light, but it's a striking tool.
Yep.
So somebody's, you know, you need to defend yourself. This is and you can carry this anywhere, you know, there's no restrictions on carrying a flashlight anywhere.
It's not intimidating.
And it's useful in many, many other ways. So I always carry a flashlight with me.
Yeah. There's nothing worse than that. I've been looking at houses before and I look up in the attic and there's no lights and the realtor doesn't have a light. And I'm just like, well, now what? I can't see anything.
Yeah, no, it's just a great tool.
Yeah.
So, no.
Very cool.
And I'm a huge advocate of pepper spray too.
Right.
So there's all sorts out there. There's 2 primary like cap types.
Yeah.
There's a flip up cap where you slide your thumb underneath it, and then there's a twist cap. And just in, you know, talking to people, having people come in my class, they're like, oh, I've got pepper spray. I'm like, you do? Okay, well, let me see it.
Right.
And it's usually expired. So you need to pay attention to that.
Yeah.
And it's not that the stuff in the pepper spray goes bad, but they lose pressure. They can lose pressure over time. It may not be effective when you need it. And then I'd say I've seen 20% of the time, maybe 10% of the time, somewhere in there, where the twist type has gotten depressed over time.
Oh, yeah.
And it's no longer effective in any way. Right. Like maybe it was just enough to slowly release the pressure in the canister. So I'm a big fan of the slide under, flip top, Palm Industries. They make some great pepper spray. I think that's some of the most compact pepper spray out there.
Yeah.
And that's something that's with me all the time.
Right.
I mean, and it's effective,
and
not hard to use.
Non-lethal.
We shouldn't say non-lethal. Less likely to be lethal.
Right.
Right. I mean, you could hurt someone severely, you know, if they have asthma or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, anytime we're talking about some tool that's a, you know, less than lethal or less likely to be lethal.
Right.
Things like pepper spray and tasers.
Have you ever tried pepper spray, like on yourself? Have you tried pepper spray?
Well, not on purpose. This is a good lesson though, right? So I went outside, didn't know if it was a good canister anymore, and sprayed it. Wind shifted, came back on me, you know. But, you know, in a real situation, is that a possible scenario?
Absolutely.
Yes. And especially in an enclosed space, if you use pepper spray inside a house, inside a building,
in
a vehicle, you will probably get some on you.
Yeah, it's no fun.
No. I mean, it wasn't too bad, but it wasn't because I just had, you know, a very low secondary dose, but I don't want to do it for fun.
No, absolutely not. I did, when I was in boot camp, I did the gas chamber, and that's no joke. Nope. I mean, you have to do it to experience it and see, like, because obviously with that, you know, if you feel it, put your gas mask on. You think it's not working, you'll take it off, but it is working. But
Yeah.
it's just the stuff's all over you. But yeah, it's bad news. So.
Yeah. Well, and I'd say the biggest mistake people make with pepper spray is they don't practice. So almost every manufacturer of pepper spray makes inert trainers that are just filled with water.
Yeah.
Get those. They're
Right.
cheap.
Yeah.
And you can practice using it and moving and using it. Like if someone's coming at you to hurt you
Right.
or try and take you somewhere else, you're not standing still, you're moving.
Yeah.
And when you use pepper spray, it's not just a squirt like
Right.
to the face. It's more I'm gonna bless you. I'm gonna bless you with the cross.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're doing
Yeah.
either a up, down, up, and a cross spray because you're trying to get as much as you can
Right.
in the face area. So it's not just one direct squirt. You're going to try and cover an area.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, it's good to know. It's good to practice anything. That's the same thing with the, with concealed carry.
yeah,
A lot of people get it, never practice with their firearm, and it's
not a magic talisman that you
No.
carry with you and does you any good.
Right.
It's a tool you need to be in your toolbox. You need to know how to use if you're going to carry it. And
Right.
it's not right for everybody, and that's okay. Like
Right.
everybody has the Second Amendment right, but it's not right for everybody. And there's plenty of folks who aren't comfortable with that, and that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But develop other systems to protect yourself.
right. And know if you're not that person. If you're not that person, don't do it, because if you're not going to practice and,
Yeah.
and be affluent with it, then it's more danger having it than not having
It
it.
could be, yeah, for sure. Carrying a firearm and shooting a firearm is a diminishable skill.
Right.
And even that, like just having the ability to do it is only a small part of it. You need to understand when you're justified in using it. Another
Absolutely.
great resource I point students to after the class is an individual by the name of Andrew Branca, who's an attorney. And he does an online class that's phenomenal called The Law of Self-Defense.
Yeah.
And he has state-specific additions for
Okay.
a core class. And it's not that much. And it really dives in over hours and hours and hours and hours
Right.
to the justified use of lethal force.
Right.
So I can't recommend it highly enough.
Yeah.
That's another one of those things that I say, folks, if you're going to take this seriously,
Right.
do this.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Know the rules.
Yep.
Yeah, that's huge. And now, so you teach, you're going to be teaching the Realtor Safety class.
That's the plan.
You teach the concealed carry class.
Yep.
Okay. And then do you teach, or do you recommend any sort of a more, like, let's say somebody has a concealed carry permit, they've taken the real estate safety class, and they want to get more into like the practical applications and fluidity with it. Do you do any sort of tactical training or anything like that?
So we can do one-on-one training if you'd like to. And that's my preferred method of doing that sort of exercise.
Yeah.
There are, like, Peacemakers has a bunch of advanced classes that are fantastic. The United States Concealed Carry Association, they have like defensive shooting fundamentals above the concealed carry and home defense fundamentals class. That's a great class. There are there's the Protector Academy online through the USCCA if you're a member.
Okay.
And there's all sorts of great web training.
Yeah.
So that's where I would start, and just be in the habit of going to the range every so often.
Right.
Like I would say at least once a month.
Yeah.
And spending the time there and getting familiar and competent with your firearm.
Right. Because I know most ranges don't allow you to, actually draw from holster.
Oh yeah.
Which I know is a big thing. Like a
Yeah.
lot of people don't think about it, but when you're in that situation and you have 10 seconds to make a decision and you're fumbling around, that 10 seconds closes the gap.
So one of the most important things you could do is dry fire training. And that's where you set up a safe area in your home with an appropriate backstop,
Right.
where if an error was made and a live round made it into the space, like when we make this area safe, we're removing any ammunition whatsoever from the space where
Right.
ammunition has never been there. And, but we always plan for like worst case scenarios.
Right.
All our rules of safe gun handling are overlapping, so that if we screw one up, the other ones protect us from making a horrible mistake.
Right.
And so we do a dry fire drill where you have your holster and then you have your firearm, and you can practice and, over time do these discrete steps of drawing from a holster that becomes
Right.
one fluid motion, with no ammunition.
Right.
And also a lot of the times, like airsoft, there's airsoft models of most firearms
Yeah.
out there. So you could pick one up that's very similar to whatever firearm you own and practice these same steps.
Right.
And actually try
With
to
the target.
put a mark on a target.
Yeah.
So, dry fire drills are fantastic for that.
Yeah, no, those are all really good ideas. So now if somebody wanted to reach out to you for any of those classes, how would they contact you? Is that a separate company of your real estate, I'm assuming?
Yeah, so I own Reactive Arms LLC. You can find me on the website. You can find me on Facebook.
Okay.
I'll admit, getting ready for the baby, and then since the baby, it's
Right.
been kind of a secondary endeavor.
Yeah, understandably.
But I'm hoping to spin things back up here pretty soon, so they can find me on Facebook pretty easily.
Okay.
And if you have questions, just reach out. Like
Right.
I do this because I want to help folks in
Yeah.
real estate or any other industry. And we can just talk about it.
Right.
Like, this is stuff I'm passionate about. I just want to, if you want to talk about it, I want to talk about it.
Yeah. And I love that there's the options where it's not, one-stop shop. You don't need a concealed carry, but start with the real estate class, put those systems in place, make sure you're using them to make sure you're never in a position where you would need anything like that, which is awesome. And like some of the tools you showed in there are really cool. The one where you can use the little key fob and things like that.
Yeah. And there's other devices like that too. That's not the only one.
Right.
So if you don't like that setup, there's rings that do that, all sorts of other stuff.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's, one great achievement with technology is there's so many devices that you can use that are going to definitely up your chances of making it out of a situation safely.
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. So now back to the real estate. Now, what's your guys' kind of game plan for the team moving forward? Like, let's say 2 years out from now.
I mean, we'd love to add maybe a few more agents and solidify some systems and get a little more administrative staff in place. Yeah. So that's kind of the next goal, is just to build out systems and be better at things.
Right.
We really pride ourselves on some of our video content. I think we do really well with things like Instagram Reels and video tours.
I agree.
And we love doing those. They're fun.
Right.
So that's kind of one of the things we really focus on and work hard on. And then with an IT background, it lets me to leverage things like Facebook advertising and generating leads for folks who are interested in your house and that sort of thing.
That's what I was going to ask. That's got to be a nice tie-in between the IT and this.
Yeah, it is for sure. And it's beneficial. I mean, there's a lot of it, and even with some background, sometimes you get to a system or something new and it's like, wow, I really have to dig into this because it's complicated. Right. But no, the IT background has definitely helped quite a bit. Yeah,
that's cool. And do you use a lot of the systems that are in place with KW, or a lot of those things that you use as tools for your team?
We use the Command CRM.
Okay.
So, and it has a lot of tools built into it that are pretty solid. Yeah. I really like their smart plans features and your ability to run Facebook advertising in just a few clicks. I've done it all the ways. Like I've done it through other programs and I've like Buffer. But I've also done it through Facebook itself and then Command, and it's faster. Yeah. And it already has some optimization built into it.
Okay.
So I typically just run things right through Command.
Okay. Well, that's cool to hear. I mean, especially from somebody with an IT background, if you go in and you actually like it and it's not, you don't rip it to shreds.
No.
They must have done it right.
Yeah. Works pretty well.
And now for your team, do you guys, do you see yourself ever building out kind of your own models with the IT stuff, or do you just kind of see yourself using what's already there?
It's kind of like most everything else. There's so many people who have done things right before and really well before. We can borrow and copy them, and imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, right? Exactly. So I haven't had a chance to do something wholly unique, and I'm okay with that. Yeah, because there's so many people doing it so right.
Right. Yeah, that's the cool thing about it too, and you can share with everybody, and they can share with you, and that's really cool. And
that's one of the coolest things about kind of the real estate environment. It's so collaborative. Like people think it's cutthroat, and it's, I mean, at least in my experience, it hasn't been. Right. It's generally people overall who want to help each other out and whatever they're best at. Yeah. So kind of like the safety thing. Like if you have questions about that, right, I'm happy to help.
Yeah. Do you think it's a KW thing as opposed to, has Alina ever been at a different brokerage, or she's started at KW?
She started at KW. Okay. I've always been at KW. Okay. So, I mean, I don't know that I can say it, but we've found agents from all brokerages to be pretty great people.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you go into it with the right intentions and your intention is to help people and help your clients, then what's the point in butting heads over it? Just do the right thing.
It's not that you don't have once or twice some bad experience with some one person, but it's not, I don't think it runs with any particular group. Right. So yeah. Yeah.
The field as a whole seems pretty solid. That's great. And now, so that's the plan going 2 years forward. Is this all part of the design also with the baby now? It's got to be working out to plan where you guys can develop this team, do your thing. You kind of control your own schedule, and that'll give you guys a lot of time at home, which is ideal, at least for the first
couple of years, I would say. A few years. Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of it. We want to be able to spend time with Clara and hopefully maybe a few more kids in the future. And I mean, we love to travel. We love to hike and just see, there's so many wonderful places in the world. And we love to see those. And, you know, I mean, Arizona is one of our favorites, and just go hiking.
We were talking about that before.
Amazing.
Javelina Cantina.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, our real estate career in a lot of ways drives our ability to live the life we want. And I mean, honestly, without purpose, without focus in our lives, you're usually not satisfied.
Right.
And if your drive is to help folks, like, it's the same sort of thing as the personal defense. It comes down to, it's a core need. And it's one of the most important decisions in somebody's like life, is their home purchase. It's the biggest financial purchase.
Yeah.
Highly emotionally charged.
Right.
And navigating that with someone is a special experience. I don't know how else to put it.
Right.
So
no, it's nice. It's nice that you take all of it in and you understand that. You know, a lot of people are transactional, and it seems like you guys look into it more. It's obviously much more than a transaction to you, which I think has got to help out too with referrals and things like that. It wasn't a one-time deal.
Yeah. No, I mean, we work super hard for our clients. I mean, Alina is off helping a client move from another state right now.
Yeah.
You know, the movers are there and they're unloading, and Alina's there because the client can't be there to make sure things go where they need to go.
Right.
And the transaction was a month ago.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, that's not a complaint. That's we want them to be here. We want them to be in their new home, and we want to facilitate that any way we can, if we've been paid or not.
Right.
So that's the goal.
Yeah. That's really cool. I mean, it both seems like you're both great people, very passionate about what you do.
Well, we fooled you. No, I'm just kidding.
But yeah, I love it. I love all of it. Main thing is your contact information.
Yep.
So if you guys want to share everybody's your contact information with everybody,
sure.
And then we'll also, there's going to be links. If anybody watches it, we'll put all your links at the bottom of it as well.
Yeah. I mean, so for anything really, it's just easiest to reach out to me via the real estate contact. So you can reach me at chadak@kw.com. Okay. Or 810-777-6631. That you can call me, you can text me, whatever you need. And I just like to reiterate those resources. Michigan iChat, which is just found easily through a Google search, and it takes you to the michigan.gov site, so you can do some investigation of potential clients.
Right.
And then the NSOPW, the National Sex Offenders Public website, you can search folks that may have a past that might be a client, and make yourself safer. Those are two great resources. Again, the United States Concealed Carry Association, tons of fantastic resources online, wherever you're at, with whatever you need, firearms or not. There's tons of tools on there to help you build systems and stay safe.
Okay.
So, I mean, great resources.
Very cool.
And The Gift of Fear by Gavin DeBecker.
Yes, I want to read that. Please email me that.
I would totally lend you my book, but I think I'm on like my fourth book because I buy it and lend it and buy it and lend it. And so, I'll buy another one and lend it to you.
All right. I appreciate that. All right. Well, thanks, Chad, for coming on. We really appreciate it. And like I said, we'll share the links at the bottom if anybody wants to reach out. And like Chad said, just reach out to him if you have any questions regarding safety, concealed carry, any of those things, and just see where you may fit in the middle somewhere. He'd be more than happy to help you with that. Thanks for coming on, Chad. We really appreciate it.
No,
congratulations again.
Yeah, thanks. Super, super happy with her. She's awesome.